Hey guys, so for a while I've been obsessed with Star Wars, especially Star Wars Battlefront 2. I played a lot on the PS4 and I also played the original game on the PC, and I thought it would be so cool to make a Clone Commando helmet that is featured in those games. And this video is just going to be an overview of how I assembled, printed, and post-processed the helmet afterwards. And I wanted to give a huge shout out to Chef Sharky from Thingiverse. They created an insanely cool helmet model, as well as I believe the rest of the armor, and that's the model that I used for the helmet in this video. So I have a Bamboo Lab A1 printer that I use to print all the pieces. But as you can see, the helmet itself was massive, so I had to split it up into individual parts and then print each part individually and separately. And the first piece I decided to print was the rebreather that goes below the face mask. I think overall printing time took around 30 to 40-ish hours for all of the pieces, so this was not a short printing project by any means. And then next up was the back of the helmet, the back top side specifically. And as you guys can probably see, I ran out of black filament, so added some color on the bottom back half of the helmet. And this really didn't matter because all of it was going to be painted and covered up anyways. And after everything was partially assembled, I took it all apart again just so I could spray paint it white, because I just wanted to see what the overall helmet would look like before I finished it. The model of this helmet conveniently came with these portholes that I had to drill to make a bit larger, but then I could put nails in them to join them to other pieces of the helmet. And here are close-up videos showing you the clip nails and how I inserted them into the helmet. And then after that, it was just a matter of putting epoxy down to seal everything together, and then I just let it sit for about 24 hours. And before I move on, I just want to explain that this was the part where I realized how inexperienced I was at post-processing. And I was using some Automotive filler primer to seal all the additional gaps in the helmet, but as you can see, I'm applying way too much, and it ended up dripping down and clumping up, and it kind of sucked. But after I gave it a good sanding, I applied some Bondo on the other bigger seams, especially the parts where the helmet merged together. There were these large gaps that needed to be filled, and Bondo actually worked really well for this. And I could have gone the route of sanding this thing down forever and ever, but I just decided to put on another coat of filler primer and then spray paint the whole thing with a nice glossy protective enamel. Moving on to the final steps, I taped around the mouthpiece so I could spray paint it black. And to do the visor, I've seen a lot of people online use one of these replacement shield lenses, and then they proceed to heat it up to morph it to whatever shape they want. And since I didn't have a heat gun and desperate times call for desperate measures, I resorted to using my stovetop to morph it to the shape that I wanted. And I understand this definitely wasn't the smartest idea, but it works, so can't really complain. So after I glued all the attachments on, it was time to paint all of the details, and I went over everything first with a Sharpie to get a general outline, but then I used some paint on a toothpick to really get into the fine details and to make sure everything was covered. And you can still see some imperfections on the surface due to the filler primer. And unfortunately, I just gave up on trying to get those out. But in the future, I know to use a lot less filler primer and to really use a lot more sandpaper to get everything to look flush and perfect. And here is how the final helmet ended up looking. And on the inside of the helmet, there's kind of a lot going on, but I use some EVA foam, which is the white stuff, and then some Velcro helmet inserts, which are the black foam pads. And to secure the visor to the helmet, I just use some double-sided tape for the time being until I find a better solution. And to get the blue lighting effect, I just used one of these dome lights that I had sitting around in my apartment and thought it looked really cool. And that's how I made a Clone Commando replica helmet. Let me know if you guys had any questions, and I'll definitely be making more projects like this in the future. Thanks!